2019 BMW X4 car review. While we quite often look askance for the consumer trend far from sedans and into crossovers, people want what they need. A decade ago, the first BMW sports activity coupe, the X6, reminded us with the 1940s when every American car maker developed a four-door fastback. No one wants that again, we thought. Then the smaller BMW X4 emerged for 2015, and now we wished the aberrations could join the Oldsmobile Series 60 as well as the Plymouth Deluxe and history's dustbin. The good points of 2019 BMW X4: more felicitous styling and roomier cabin than previous X4, sharper driving character than current X3. The bad points of 2019 BMW X4: still seems like a turtle on stilts, poor visibility through guns-lit rear window, compromised cargo hold. And yet we recently found ourselves for the BMW Performance Center, through the road on the carmaker's Spartanburg, South Carolina, assembly plant, preparing to drive a fresh, second-generation X4. Going on sale September, it now looks like a mainstream vehicle. Normalization with the previously unthinkable is usually a fearful force to reckon with, in cars such as politics. The X4, which has a fastback profile that distinguishes it looking at the square-rigged stablemate, the X3, is pro-life more slowly than maybe the crossover segment in particular. In the United States, BMW sold greater than 40,000 X3s recently while peddling only 5,198 X4s. The Mercedes-Benz GLC Coupe may be the X4's sole direct analog as being a fastback variant of your more conventional compact SUV, and yes, it too adds only incremental volume to sales of the boxier platform mate. The GLC Coupe may exist only because Mercedes is compelled to counter every addition for the BMW lineup of their bilateral game of marketing battleship. However, these two also contest with the Porsche Macan, the Alfa Romeo Stelvio, as well as the Range Rover Velar, to mention but three that similarly sacrifice the purported utility of crossovers about the altar of styling. Baby's got fastback. To that end, BMW has created the X4 prettier. It still resembles a turtle on stilts, but a less lumpy one. Riding over a wheelbase stretched by 2.1 inches, the 2019 X4 casts a shadow that is certainly either 3.0 or 3.2 inches longer depending for the exact model than recently's X4. It's also a good inch plus a half wider plus a skosh lower. Designers use this larger canvas to render a better proportioned and fewer stubby profile. As you move the entire rear contours way better resolved in a cohesive shape. Added length benefits the inner behind the pillar. Rear seat legroom has risen by an inch, and cargo capacity expands by 1 cubic foot over a year ago's X4, to 19 cubic feet. Aside through the raked roof cutting 10 cubic feet out from the X3's cargo hold above the trunk seat and bringing the trunk door opening onto head-clung cone entry territory, the inner is all but identical to your X3's, which can be a good thing. X4 drivers ensconced from the all-day comfortable and supportive sport seats may find the same quality materials, taut panel fits, and informative digital instrument panel. The central iDrive control screen would be the same as with the X3, too, responsive, intuitive, and graphically modern. Props towards the design team, then. However, the question remains, why choose this above the less costly, more useful X3? The answer, in characteristic BMW fashion, is usually that the styling signifies a sportier driving experience. BMW even claims the brand new shape brings dynamic improvements on account of a lowered center of gravity, though still higher when compared to a sedan or maybe a coupe, and also a wider rear track. These are claims we explored over many hours behind the wheel, negotiating the track with the Performance Center, cruising nearby interstates, and scurrying over mountain terrains within South and North Carolina, roads that evoked the moonshine and origins of NASCAR, back when a fastback 40 Ford was standard. We clocked the majority of our miles from the X4 M40i, the top-tier variant propelled by BMW's turbocharged 3.0-liter inline V6, that has a side excursion from the xDrive 30i turbocharged 2.0-liter four-banger. Both are designed with standard all-wheel drive along with an 8-speed automatic transmission. These two will be the only offerings to the United States, but Spartanburg, America's biggest automotive exporter with a wide margin, also builds X4s having a less powerful 2.0-liter plus 4 diesel powertrains for other markets. For all our moaning over foolish American consumers embracing crossover coupes, the business actually exports 8 times several X4s since it sells here. We hear that Russians invest in a lot of them. Like the X3, X5, X6, and upcoming X7. All X4s are made at Spartanburg for worldwide distribution. Rather, these crossovers were all built here until recently, when demand to the X3 in China got excessive that BMW opened another factory there together with retooling a plant in South Africa to generate the X3. Still, U.S. built German cars for Chinese and Russian consumers? For those who remember fondly the 1980s, this is weirder than an AMC Eagle SX4. More sportified. The X4 M40i won't enter into production until August, a few months after the lesser models. Equipped together with the stout 355 horsepower Turbo 6. It's the most popular version until an anticipated Alin X4M concerns take for the Mercedes-AMG GLC 63 Coupe as well as the Macan Turbo. When we tested a 2017 first-generation X4 M40i having a similar powertrain, it have got to 60 miles per hour in 4.4 seconds. BMW states to have pared around 110 pounds off the modern ones, citing more extensive usage of aluminum and high-strength steels, so the organization's estimate how the 2019 will perform it in 4.6 looks conservative. Launch control is standard around the M40i. BMW's inline V6 along with the familiar 8-speed automatic go together like pulled pork and collard greens. This also drivetrain never disappoints. While delivering the items, the 6 also sounds nearly as musical since it does in the real sports coupe, say, the M240i, only rather less intense, a mezzo-piano effect attributable more to your tuning and the in-cabin audio enhancement instead of any change from the engine itself. The gearbox does a fantastic job of selecting and holding the proper gear in any condition. Even so, the shift paddles are always with the watchy if your driver seeks a tad bit more involvement. Either way, downshifts and throttle lifts are rewarded that has a crackling backfire throughout the trapezoidal tailpipes that is certainly no less entertaining to get digitally enabled. That said, the standard crossover driver could possibly be well served saving $10,000 by picking out the 4-cylinder. In city cruising, it's sound over responsiveness that separates both the Turbo 4 delivers 248 horsepower and scads of low-rpm torque through the identical excellent drivetrain. Abetted by aggressive throttle typing, the xDrive 30i feels nearly as quick because 6 when excel in traffic, in the meantime emitting a hushed and guttural note. BMW claims a 6.0-second 0 to 60 mph time with all the Turbo 4, we've recorded 6.2 for your heavier X3 version. You can find a trace of turbo lag by insisting about the wrong gear, but provide transmission its head and yes it'll minimize even that worry, making the entry-level X4 more hare than tortoise. nor can there be anything reptilian about any X4's demeanor in the event the roads get twisty. We've watched track tested, and praised the driving dynamics of the latest X3. The X4 shares the rigid chassis and overall refined behavior of that platform mate while sharpening the handling. Both the normal conventional suspension as well as the optional adaptive M version are tuned with firmer springs, dampers, and anti-roll bars in comparison to equivalent X3s. BMW also says its weight reduction efforts included a large amount of work on shaving unsprung mass inside suspension, which on first impression effectively counters a primary complaint regarding the previous model, a flinty ride over rough pavement. The worst road surfaces we will find within the Carolinas would barely warrant that description near our Midwestern home base, so we'll reserve final judgment until we are to do the full test. Still, I was encouraged to see that in Sport Plus mode within the M40i's optional 20-inch wheels 19s are standard and 21s can be obtained. The ride was not ever jarring, the suspension keeping the tires firmly planted even if we applied the throttle mid-switch on lumpy asphalt. The M40i's electrically assisted variable sports steering method is tuned having a little more heft inside normal comfort driving mode. The engineer's reference hand jerk adapted to your more dynamic performance versus the X3, with commensurate upticks because you move through Sport and Sport Plus. Adding effort on the steering doesn't bring any extra feel for your road, but we did choose to sense of finer control and sport over comfort mode inside mountains. The M40i has standard M Sport brakes that has a larger master cylinder and blueprinted calipers. Cars so equipped a firmer, quicker modulated pedal much appreciated in mountain driving. We should be aware that a consistent weakness with the previous generation X3x4 was abnormally long stopping distances in your track tests. This was true, still, on the X3 xDrive 30i we tested recently. Nevertheless, the X3 M40i turned within a far more competitive performance while using M Sport stoppers and Pirelli P0 run flat summer tires. The types of drivers who'd find the M40i within the xDrive 30i due to the engine also can appreciate the conventional M Sport rear differential. While it's tricky to imagine including the hardcore opting for taking an X4 within the track, that has been where we might most effectively, and safely, test its electronically controlled locking function. In the conventional driving modes, the differential behaves normally. Employ the DSC change to turn off stability control plus the differential grows more active, aiding turn-in response. Turning off DSC into what's effectively a track mode fully activates the diff lock and intensely launches the auto out of corners while freeing the motorist to induce power oversteer. BMW even went down a skid pad to demonstrate how the X4 is usually teased right into a drift, although this exercise would have been no less pointless and more entertaining in one with the M4 coupes sitting idle at trackside. What we didn't get to accomplish was try the X4 on any surface farther off-road compared to a gravel track, but owners are about as prone to go mudbogging since they are to enter a drifting competition. Electro quibbles. The M40i we drove most was designed with BMW's gesture control system, a gimmicky ways of managing the infotainment functions that first debuted inside the 7 Series sedan. In the less expansive cabin on the X4 it had been comical when our conversational hand motions triggered an on-screen response, zooming the navigation map inside and out or unintentionally adjusting the audio volume. Depending on how animated you receive when talking with passengers or with a Bluetooth-enabled hands-free telephone call, this might be worth avoiding or disabling. At least it doesn't control any critical functions. Like most advanced crossovers, the X4 is equipped which has a full selection of electronic driver assist and safety systems, that do, by design, make some critical decisions for you. Most of these also might be disabled, which we neglected to accomplish once following a break from driving, producing an alarming intrusion. We were rounding a hairpin turn for the inner lane, and our exit line through the corner evidently came too close to your yellow lane divider line for that Robinani's comfort, or maybe it miswatched the guardrail as oncoming traffic there is none, or it disliked our closing speed for the Subaru in its own lane. Whatever set it up off, the auto dialed back the throttle, applied the brakes, and steered, hard, for the right. We were capable to sort it out quickly, but it turned out an incident in the ultimate machine, driving. The lane keeping, collision avoidance, and also other myriad aids-ing monitors were otherwise so unobtrusive that we had arrived able to get ourselves into this situation before noticing these people were activated, which can be an endorsement of sorts. Robots that know their place have become rarer than manual transmission two-door coupes. Expect the expected. The X4 xDrive 30 out to be arriving at dealers soon for $51,445, using the M40i following in late summer at $61,445. X4 xDrive 30i buyers may choose in the standard X-Line appearance package or even the optional M Sport package. The X-Line has front and back skid plates, side skirts, and accents in satin aluminum. These all supposedly accentuate the off-road adventure component of crossover ownership. The M Sport features its own bumpers and skirts with gloss black accents to emphasize performance, and yes, it is close in appearance towards the M40i's model-specific bumpers and trim pieces. Europe gets an M Sport X trim that plays each side of that scale, with frozen gray accents meant to evoke rally racing. That's precisely the opening gambit around the personalization options you could expect will swell the conclusion on most X4s. Having the factory the following in America makes ordering a car exactly the way that suits you it's somewhat more practicable than may be the case for imported models, as well as the company has now made it feasible to order X4s with options from the BMW individual portfolio. Because when you're competing using the Porsche Macan, no options list may be too long. If our wishes that a whole crossover coupe thing would certainly go away have crashed against hard reality, a minimum of the X4 keeps alive our equally fervent hopes that BMW can return to its mission of pleasing drivers first.